My name is Eric Law, and I graduated from Cornell in 1978. Back in the 70s, when I was at Cornell, basically there were a number of circle friends, a community that I'm part of, my fraternity, and the Episcopal Church of Cornell, which is the campus ministry here, and the Chinese Student Association, and so those were the three kind of major network. For the first 3 years, I was not aware of what was going on in terms of gay life on this campus because I was struggling with it. I was attracted to classmates and couldn't express it, and so in my junior year, one of my best friends, whom I was attracted to my freshman year, so we stayed friends all these years and stay in touch, and he came out to me and said he was gay, and then I was like, what, and and so I said to him, so am I. And that's the very first time I said it. We didn't know what to do with that because he already, he was very much involved in the liberation movement by the time he was a sophomore. But he couldn't tell me because he didn't think I would accept that, But we kind of both knew something, but we couldn't say it. That was kind of a strange kind of time. And so he had already have a boyfriend. And so I was like totally destroyed, So now that we both know, and there's nothing we can do about that, right? And I have my standard, So I spent the rest of my junior year, and that year I spent the summer here on campus. And so, being a good Cornellian, one of the things that we learned, very early on to survive here, is that you get ahead of the game. You do something about it. You don't just sit around. So now that I have come out to myself, because of this friend of mine, thanks, to him, that I spent the whole summer just looking at myself, looking at my body. And so I was talking to someone at the reunion yesterday, and he said, oh, the best thing at Cornell is that at Tego Hall, at a certain hour during the day, men can go swimming nude. And that's a long tradition at Cornell. So one of the things that I felt was that I have very poor body image, that I always thought I was not handsome and I was always too skinny. And so one of the things that I wanted to do that summer was to improve my own body image, to the way I see myself. So what better way to do it is to be naked, in front of other people. And that was really, really important time. I spent that time, the summer, just doing that, And I think a lot of Cornellian has that drive. You talk to a lot of alums, to really do something about that. And then at the same time, I came out to my priest at the Episcopal Church of Cornell. His name is Gordon Brewster, and in your archives, you really should pay attention to this figure on this campus. He's been a campus minister for over 20 years, and he was the first person I went to. After I came out to myself, I went to tell him. And he said, well, so what else are you? That was like the most important thing. What else are you? And that community of the Episcopal Church of Cornell, which meet in Annabelle Taylor every Sunday, was a key factor in my experience in coming out. And for me, coming out is directly related to my spiritual life, and to have a group of a community of faith just took me as I am, and then to really broke me out of the the mold that I'm gay and that's who I am, to I'm just a very talented person with lots of gifts, and I happen to be gay, which is a very, very important foundation, and so there was a whole thing was going on with gay liberation in the mid-70s on this campus, and I didn't know about that until my junior year. And so while I was kind of dealing with it from a spiritual perspective, and the physical part of it, then I was introduced to what goes on in Ithaca. There was a horrible, dirty, smelly place called the Blue Angels, which is the only gay bar in Ithaca. And so in those days, that was the only social place that you can go to as a gay person. The gay bar scene was still, at least we thought that was the only, place. And so we were introduced to that, and that wasn't very satisfying in terms of encountering people as a person of color. There was only one other Asian, maybe two, and there's only so many in the gay man culture. There's only so many gay men that are interested in other Asian folks. So what the pool of candidates there are, and you feel competitive, and it's not good in terms of being gay and being Asian, and your relationship with other Asian, gay Asian is often in a competitive mode because the market, for relationship is limited, but that you experience all of that, and then my friend who came out to me, he was very much involved in the whole liberation movement. So I got introduced to the Gay Student Association, and then we started coordinating, having gay dance at the Strait. Right at what was that name of the hall? Right when you come into Strait? Memorial, yeah, right there. Very prominent. We were not hiding. And when we have a dance, we open it up to the whole community. So people from Ithaca College, from other places will come. So our gay dances became like a mecca for people to come, and it's wholesome, it was a disco era, so we all learned how to do disco, but those were much more positive experience, the ones at Cornell, than the gay bar that are out there. But those are the times where we were able to experiment, to meet people, and so those and actually, I went back to dating women for a while, and then realized that I really am gay. So, just to make sure, right? And so, by the time I graduated, I was really well adjusted in terms of as a gay man. I can't say that for a lot of friends. I've seen a lot of people get into trouble, but I was pretty well adjusted and ready to face the world. One of the things that was really important was that back to the campus ministry, the priests, the campus pastors recommended I go to a retreat in a place called Kirkridge, which is in Pennsylvania, which is started by a Presbyterian minister, and it become a really a spiritual center for liberal Christianity. And so at that time, Kirkridge actually had, in the early days, had the very first program called Gay, Lesbian, and Christian. Okay, this is in 1977, So if you want to document something like that, I mean that's a really key thing, and Kirkridge became the one of the places where liberal, progressive, now we call progressive Christianity was being put forth, and where resources can be shared. And the year before I graduate, they have speakers for these retreat with the key gay spiritual leader, John McNeil, who is a Jesuit priest who came out on national TV. I think he came out in one of the shows like Johnny Carson's or something like that. Today's shows, yeah. And Malcolm Boyd, who is an Episcopal priest who wrote the book. He's a prominent priest in the 70s, in the 60s. Wrote very many books. One of the famous books is called "Are You Running with Me, Jesus?" And he wrote and came out in public as well. And he wrote a book called "Take Off Your Mask." There was the first ordained lesbian priest out in the Episcopal Church, Carter Haywood. She was the first in the Episcopal Church, the illegally ordained women. At that time, no women were allowed to be ordained, and they broke the rules and ordained 11 of them in Philadelphia, and Carter was one of them, and she's a PhD, in theology, and she's a priest, and she speak very, openly about being a lesbian. And those were the key people in the Christian world, the liberal Christian world. And so I really wanted to go to that. This is a kind of a strange story. I really wanted to go to that, but for some reason I couldn't make it my senior year after I graduate. So my priest said, well, go to Kirkridge anyway, because this is a really amazing place. And so instead of going to the gay, lesbian, Christian one, I went to a 1 week long Bible study retreat. Now, what do you think about that, right? When you say Bible study, right? But it's led by a very at that time he was just a rising star in the theological world. His name was Walter Wink. He's a Methodist and a scholar, a New Testament scholar, and he does the kind of Bible study where he simply asks questions of the group, and so I went, and I was the youngest person. I was barely 21, and I experienced total acceptance from this group of Christians, about 45 of them. They were all much older than me, and they all studied the Bible with me. And I was gay, and I make no secret about that. I came out and talked about it openly, and I was completely accepted for who I am. Now that's an unusual experience for anybody, I think. But as a person who have been trapped in this secrets, for so many years, for 20 years, and then having a year to explore what that is, and then entering into this environment recommended by my campus pastor at Cornell, was absolutely amazing. So my coming out experience is completely connected with my spiritual life, and a lot of people don't know about that. Often people think about Christian is anti-gay. Not to me, because my circle of resources in that world is very much the liberal, progressive Christian world that often don't get a lot of publicity. And I hang around Cornell because of that. I got a job. I didn't tell you I was an electrical engineer major. Okay, so I got a job at Corning, which is just, not too far from here. And so I hang around, Ithaca for 2 years. further exploring, being an engineer, being gay, and also, very active in church, and keep coming back to Cornell for those 2 years, coming back to the Annabelle Taylor. That's still my primary community at the time. And then, 2 years later, decided to go to theological school. And again, the campus ministry at Cornell sponsored me. As a somewhat openly gay person, but, we were kind of practicing don't ask, don't tell at that time. This is, and work through that whole process. And so I didn't have to hide anything. And it was all very healthy, So the resources at Cornell was invaluable to my spiritual health and my psychological health and all that, because there are pockets of community that would just simply accept me as who I am, and I think that's also part of the Cornell environment, that this place has a long tradition of being open to new ideas and new things, and also to fight for it, and to. We grew up in the era here. When I arrived, there was just a few years after the black students, took over Day Hall, and we did that too. We were part of a COSEP. When they fired our director in the summer, we came back and we protested, and the university here, just accepted it and worked through, and that was part of who we are. Being shaped in this place. Even though I'm in the engineering school, so much of the formation and the learning happened outside the classroom in the engineering court. And because I was here, I was able to explore all of this other possibility that was there. So I think that's enough, yeah?
One more thing.
Okay.
Will you show us your favorite disco move?
Oh, no!
Come
Well, there was all kinds of disco moves. There was the Latin disco, and there was the Manhattan move. What was that called?
I don't know.
Just one little.
Oh, I mean, like you gotta raise your hands like this, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of twirling. Twirling of your partner. So in a gay dance, you had to decide who's gonna do what, and you had to switch role. So yeah. So that was we had the best party. That's what it was. That we had the best party between the gay dance and the Chinese Student Association dance, which is attended by a lot of people, because we had the best party too. So that's my social life, It's somewhat separate, in those days.
Did you think John Travolta was hot?
No, I didn't think so.
No.
No, I didn't think he was. Oh, talking about books. This is a library, right? One of the books that was being passed around when I was exploring was The Best Little Boy in the World. You should have a copy of that. It was written anonymously with a pen name at that time. I forgot the name of the author. It was one of the first book about that took place in the Massachusetts area, where it's the first coming out book that was fairly popular, available. Best Little Boy in the World. And the other book that was that I found very helpful, trying to explore getting positive image and that is The Front Runner.
Oh, I know.
Patricia Neal Warren, I think.
Yeah.
Dance for the Dance.
Yeah, but The Front Runner was a real key book for a lot of people.
Persian boy.
Yeah, yeah, for a lot of people that was a important book. But in the theological world, in the Christian world, there's a John McNeil's book called what's John McNeil's book called?
The Church and the Homosexual.
The Church and the Homosexual. And then there's a book by an evangelical Christian named Virginia Melancard called Who is My Neighbor? These are the early Christian literature that deal with gay sexuality, gay and lesbian sexuality. And as I said, Malcolm Boyd's book is called Take Off the Mask. There was some other book, a book called Embodiment, which dealt with sexuality. You know, so in those days, in the 70s, theology and sexuality was not talked about until some really courageous writers started really get into it. And so those are some of the key books to get if you want to have an archive of those.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That is such a great question. We should ask everybody what were those key books for them. I just looked up